All right, everybody. Let's double check, make sure the audio's working because I hit the wrong button. There we go. Test, test. It's great. All right. Hey, everyone. This is
Testing
Adam
one,
Scott,
two.
D&D Club, Bryan Weiss, my man, RPG&Co, for episode 2 of our weekly chat. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Doing okay. I stayed up late last night and watched the movie called The Wrestler. Have you ever seen that?
Is that with Mickey Rourke?
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it. It was pretty good.
I know. I know I'm like late to the party. I hadn't seen it before, but my wife suggested it because she was like, "Oh, it's kind of a man movie." It was fucking great.
Yeah, no, it was really
Oh
good.
my
It's been
god.
ages since I've seen that. I'll have to put that on my watch again list.
Yeah, it just was so. It's like one of those haunting movies where it was just like
Yeah.
it's a tragedy, but it just stuck with me all day, and I've been thinking about it. But what have you been up to, man? What's going on in your world?
Not too much. Not too much. Just preparing some homebrew campaign stuff for this week. Working on some branding for a couple people. And just trying to enjoy the weather.
Nice, man. What's
It's
the weather
hot.
like in your neck of the woods?
It's hot.
It's hot.
It's hot.
Hot
It's
in
hot.
Chicago.
Yeah, it's hot in Chicago, but we're used to that, you know. It's
Yeah.
negative 20 in the winter and it's 110 in the summer.
Yeah, a little
but that's
little
all
bit of
right.
that little lake effect stuff coming off the lake. I
Eh,
lived, I
it's
lived in
all- it-
Evanston for one winter, and it was just super freaking cold.
right.
God,
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
the hell out of there.
Yeah, people don't, unless you're like from here or spend a lot of time here, people don't realize there's like 100-degree temperature swing between the seasons in Chicago, and that's perfectly normal, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Mugwumps, what's going on? How are you? We're just hanging out, talking. Glad you're here. We're gonna have some fun time tonight, man. Where are you from,
Episode
Mugwumps? Which
2.
part of the country? We're talking just about weather. Super exciting, I know. I'm in Dayton, Ohio, where it's been muggy as shit for like the last. I don't know. It's like I go outside and it's like tropical Florida weather, and it's just so
Yeah.
gross. Got back from a vacation and it's just like sticky outside. Um. So, do you want to get into what we were supposed to talk about tonight? Our official agenda. Do you want to just
Sure,
jump right
let's-
into it? Because I know
we
we're
could
going
start
for about
with that.
45 minutes tonight.
Yeah, we could start with that and then see where things go. Well, first of all, we still need a name for this
Oh, yeah.
little show of ours. So our working name, I think, if I may, is RP Game Talk. So RPG, little AME, capital T.
Yeah, like,
so
like
RP Game Talk.
RPG, but did she aim? So,
Right,
okay, what's up,
right,
musical mercenary?
huh?
What's going on? How are you doing tonight, musical
unless-
mercenary? Let us know in the chat. We hope you're having a splendid night tonight.
Yes.
Mugwumps, Chicago area, and hi, Brian. It's Jeff. Oh, hey, yeah, hey, Jeff. He told me about you.
Oh,
You might
hey,
be
what's up,
lurking.
buddy?
Glad
you
you're
doing?
here, Jeff.
Yeah. So if anybody has any brainstorming ideas on what we should call this baby, let us know. You could be famous, not rich, but
Not,
famous.
not rich at all. Of course, we're in this
yeah.
for the millions of dollars that we've generated so far. What was I gonna? Oh, I was gonna. So we're casted tonight on Brian's channel, but if you could follow Brian's channel, RPG&Co, and if you can give me a follow on D&D Club, we're just trying to build a network together where we can start bringing our audiences together because we have a lot of people that are in common, but also we have different audiences, and we want to be able to host each other's channels when we're not live together, and just try to bring some collaboration. So, and it helps the algorithms. And life is all algorithm driven, and I hate that part of it. But we appreciate it. If you can give us a follow, give Brian a follow at RPG&Co, and if you can drop me a follow at D&D Club when you have time. Don't log off and do it. Just watch and enjoy. So
Yeah,
let me
thank
set
you,
you up.
Adam.
Okay, topic of the night, man. Topic of the night is like cool stories. I mean, how to tell a good story. And we were going back and forth in our chat today, and like I asked you, like, do you think it's like telling a good story? Do you think it's technique? Does it just happen? What's your first response? Your hot take on how to tell a cool story? What makes a cool story when you're playing an RPG?
My initial reaction is I think the game has obviously evolved, and the community has evolved over the years greatly. When again, I'll go back to, I'm going to start sounding like the old man. I don't know how many times I've used, you're going to have a buzzer or something every time I say, back when I was a kid playing.
Back when I was young.
No, but you know, when we were kids playing D&D, I think it was more about the dice rolling and the combat and leveling up and the mechanics. And there were a lot of awesome modules. Tomb of Horror still comes to mind as one of my favorites. But
yeah,
I think, you know, the game has grown up and the community has grown up with it, and the embracing of the role-playing aspect is just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And I think a huge part of that is being able to tell a story. And I think, to answer your question, does it just happen? Is there a technique? I think you do have to be a good storyteller. I mean, I certainly think that, you know, the creativity and whether you're, you know, have a theater background or whether you're an improv or you just like talking.
You can develop a narrative and read the room and figure out how to bring players into that and develop that.
Yeah,
as they go forward.
And so I do think, dare I say, that you know, a lot of that is a talent, but I think anybody can tell a good story. I think that the proliferation of homebrew, again, the community has kind of grown up along with the game, and I think a lot of people homebrew, which I think is a great way to facilitate that storytelling.
Can I throw something out too that I just thought of when you're talking about just players? I see a lot of players in the different forums that I'm in. They ask, especially newer players, and you said anybody can tell a good story, and I think that's true. I think any player. I think as human beings, we're hardwired to tell stories. We're hardwired to. It's kind of in our DNA to kind of, you know, sit around a campfire and talk and tell tales of our life. And really, that's, I think, what we're doing with role playing is just building on mythology that we have kind of in our past as human beings. But I see this question a lot, and it's, you know, I have the pre-printed module, I have the essentials kit or whatever it is, whatever story I'm looking at, and they ask, you know, how much of this, so I'm getting ready to read the text out. I'm getting ready to, how much do I reveal word for word? And my advice to these new players is always read it first and put it in your own mind. Get the image in your head and then tell it from memory. Whatever that memory is, but you know, get the idea and set the scene with your own language and your own flavor, because otherwise it's just like it becomes so static. I don't know how you feel about that, or how does that sound to you as advice for newer players?
I agree 100%. Even you know, I still read through when I'm running published modules. I still read through the first time. I see what makes sense to me, what pictures form in my head, and adjust from there. I usually, you know, all of the descriptions that are in the books, I'll usually use those and just build upon it, just to try to paint that visual picture. And, you know, some DMs are really good at, you know, painting that picture of like what the scene looks like. Some are really good at, you know, characters and injecting, you know, personality and voices into the NPCs. You know, some are just really good with, you know, even technical stuff like running a soundtrack in the background. It's all part of the storytelling. But I agree with you 100%. I mean, the books are, it's basically a guideline, you know. I mean, it's a script, but you can go off script. I mean, nothing. You're not.
That's a rehearsal.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, there have been a few times where, you know, we've skipped a chapter because that's the way the book works, and then we got to the next one, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I haven't read this chapter. I don't know what the fuck is going on.
It's like, there's a bunch of vampires. I didn't know that.
Jeff, yes. Okay. Yeah. But, you know, I mean, you bring up an interesting point, especially, you know, with new players. And I don't fault anybody. You know, I'm not saying, you know, you're a noob and you don't know anything. Not at all. But
sure. Well, it's confusing. When you start playing, you have no idea what to do.
It's very confusing. And you know, one of the main questions that you get from people who want to play who've never played is, you know, I don't know how to role play. And the second most common, I think, is how do you win? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no there's no correct answer for either one. Well, the answer for the second one is you don't.
Yeah, you don't win.
Yeah.
Do you find that strikes newer players that you've worked with as a weird response? Because that's my response. It's like, well, you're not really trying to win.
I think once you explain it to them, they get it, and that kind of circles back into the whole role playing thing. It's basically, this whole discussion is based on storytelling. The way I see D&D or a role playing game is you're telling a story, but you are part of the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're
You're
really
the protagonist, maybe the antagonist if you're a chaotic asshole.
Yeah.
But it's like you're inside of it, and that's I kind of describe it as it's a conversation. Like role playing is a shared conversation, and the players are on one team where they work together as the main heroes or protagonists in general, and then I bring to life all the people that they meet, and then we solve problems together. And we try to contain and try to bring out a really good narrative. And like you said, there's a lot of different ways that you can bring your own personal style to storytelling. Some people have voices. Some people are just really good at describe. Like I'm terrible at describing settings. I'm like, and you go into a room and there's a bunch of people, and then I just throw in a voice and I'm like, oh yes, and there's a dwarf in the corner and he starts talking to you, because my description has sucked. It sucked since I was in high school. I was never very good at those descriptive writing assignments. Like. That's not my forte. I'm not great with soundboard production either. But I have some people I know that are great with sound, and they can use digital effects when they're playing online, or they bring in those effects in person when they're at the table in real life.
Yeah. What was I going to say? I had a thought in my head, and it
it's dangerous.
Rolled out of my left ear. Yeah, the way I think a really cool way to look at it is, and players too tell the story.
Yeah.
But a really cool way to look at it is like you are writing a history. So you can look back. And again, another thing is like when we were kids, I remember having conversations with my friends, and it's like, oh, what's the highest level character you had, and what are your scores and stuff like that. And even now, people post on Instagram a lot. And again, I'm not knocking it, but it's like what was the worst critical fail you had in a combat, or what was the most damage you did.
I see that
and
a lot.
I really have a very hard time remembering that stuff. I think now when you ask, like, what was the most fun situation in a tavern, or what was the worst meeting with a benefactor that went off the rail, that's the stuff you remember. The narrative, yeah. And I'll again refer to Matt Mercer and the gang at Critical Role, because they kind of wrote the book figuratively and literally.
Yeah, literally multiple times they wrote the book.
Yeah. But we look back throughout those campaigns, and at least for me, and even when I'm watching, I would much rather watch them for 2 hours go into a magic shop and buy things in character than 2 hours of just rolling dice,
Totally.
because that richness and the story is to me what makes it interesting. Every game has mechanics.
Sure. Well, and those mechanics are there to help facilitate the telling of the story. And I think what happens with new players a lot, but also with more experienced players, is there's sometimes a habit that players get into of just, they walk into a room and they go, I see a person, I want to make a deception check. I'm like, well, what the hell are you deceiving?
Trust no one ever.
I want to roll insight. I think everyone's lying. I'm like, no one said anything. Musical mercenary here says, my friends get most excited for shopping episodes. Totally. Like, getting lost in town is so much more fun to me than, like, I don't like running combat as a DM. I mean, I do. Players really enjoy it, but to me, it's just part of it helps further the story. But man, like interaction, social role play when you're in a shop, I love it. When you're in town, all kinds of chaos just breaks out. It's like, hey, I had one player, I think I may have told you this before, but I want to say it again just because it's awesome. I was running Storm King's Thunder for a regular group, but it was like one of the battle episodes, one of the initial battle episodes of that, like level 5, and the town is under siege. I mean, everyone's fleeing to the ramparts or whatever to try to defend it, and this person they're like, well, I'm a crafter, so I'm going to set up a shop and start selling weapons. And that was what they did. They were like, that's going to be my action the entire time. And they were so I was like, okay. So I had like panicked soldiers rushing up and then haggling with them and buying swords. And like, I'm making a killing. This is great. I'm like, you're all going to die. He's like, I don't care. It's okay. They can all die. We'll run fast.
It's like price gouging at Walmart.
Yeah, it was price gouging. It was just like, oh, hey, fire sale only. Actually, everything's in demand. It's like when the power goes out and the generators cost a fortune at Walmart.
I have see now one of the things that I remembered. So this was a campaign that Jeff was running, and Jeff, I think you remember this if you're still on.
Jeff's still here. Jeff says he loves mass combat.
he hates it with a passion. He hates it. But this was our previous campaign, and I had a tiefling sorcerer bard, and let's just say I was always like, kind of trying to make light of a situation, or like doing the crazy thing that you probably shouldn't have been doing. But
sure,
I ended up at a house of ill repute. And
a lady of the night
had to be rescued as it went.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
It went sideways rather quickly, but it was so funny because it was so ridiculous. But yeah, it's just So me personally, I like to keep the narrative going, and I also another thing that I do is so right now I've been running Horde of the Dragon Queen, and
that one's been going for a while, hasn't it?
They just finished it. It was,
it was
over a
that
year.
one. Are they doing the next one?
Yes. It was over a year. We had 48 sessions. Now I tend to go for realism sometimes.
Jeff says, we left you there for a while.
They did. It was hilarious. But what was I saying? Oh, 48. Yeah, 48 so it went for 48 sessions. I stretched out. I don't know if anybody has done that module. I don't want to spoil it, but there is one section where you're basically traveling from way far south of Baldur's Gate all the way up to Waterdeep for 40 days, and we role played 33 of those 40 days.
Like you're gonna.
Because I really want.
It's gonna be like two towers. The next 3 months are gonna be the two towers. You're gonna be running, and you're gonna fight.
Yeah, and I asked them. I'm like, if this is starting to get sloggingly slow, tell me. But no, and what it did is it really, by the end of that chapter, those 40, those like however many sessions, to get, it was like, oh my God, I'm fucking exhausted mentally. I feel like I actually traveled 40 fucking days, and that's part of the story. And another thing is I feel like sometimes the published material, you kind of start feeling a little railroaded. So again, you can read the group and read the room, if you will, and do a side quest. I mean, a lot of times in the book, I'll say, okay, you get to Waterdeep 2 days early, so you have 2 days to yourself. And that's when they say, oh, let's look for a pit fight. And I think I mentioned this also, but
go make some money.
Yeah, that one night of we want to roll some dice, let's go find some trouble. Well, instead of saying, yeah, you find a barn, it's got a pit fight, and let's just roll some dice. I set it up to where this fight was run by an organized crime boss, and long story short, that turned into a 3 or 4 session story arc with characters that I had brought back multiple times, woven into the Horde of the Dragon Queen.
It's amazing
story.
What you can do with just a random NPC or just a quick encounter. How players, if they really enjoy it, they can just sink their teeth into it. And I like what you did where you just went with it, because I think that actually makes really good storytelling because it's organic.
Yeah.
So when players have that, when it resonates with them, even if it's not part of the story, I just say go with it. I never ignore a good story. Jeff says here, and players will go sideways on you creating their own story branch. Yeah, totally, Jeff. Like all random NPCs I want to get rid of, players would be like, oh, I want to adopt them and they're part of the party now. And I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. But it's good. It's because it makes the story unique.
It does. And I think, like I said, and we talked about this a little bit last episode with character death. Too. Instead of just like, you're gone, I don't know. Me, this is just my anal retentive nature, but I like to have a cohesive storyline just for my own sanity. So whether it's writing a character out, writing a character in, killing somebody, there's always more. There can always be more to it than just, this guy walks off into the woods and then you meet a new guy in a bar because player X wanted to change their character. We also had 2 full sessions based on that happening a couple times. So
yeah. I want to ask you about this too with storytelling. I don't know if this is a hot button issue in the D&D community, but I've seen this. Let me tell you, I've seen this come up. I've seen the issue of trigger warnings come up when you're playing, in terms of like saying, "Hey, this may trigger you, or you may have an emotional reaction to this scene." And like, I always believe that you should make sure you read the room and talk to your players ahead of time, and like don't do any nothing really horribly inappropriate. I mean, this is not like for something that is like some kind of murderous, heinous act. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. I don't put that stuff really in my campaigns. And then if I do, we all talk about it ahead of time. But I'm talking like if somebody is about to, if a character might go through some emotional struggle, I'm of the opinion that like you don't necessarily need to make the character aware. Like, oh, it's going to get hard for you here, or you're going to go through a moral quandary. Like, I love the moral decision for characters. That is my favorite thing to put in a character's lap, because it can immediately change the story in multiple directions. So I don't like to put the trigger warning out there to say, hey, you might feel a little anxious here, because that's really what I'm talking about. Like, is a player going to feel anxious? So do you feel like it's okay to have players get a little anxious if they're having like a big moral decision, or how do you feel about those big moral decisions characters have to make or they're faced with?
First of all, we're going to have to find eventually a topic that we don't agree on. Otherwise, the show's going to get boring.
It's going to be boring as shit. Like that.
Yeah, I think it's like a spoiler. It's like, spoiler alert, this is going to be tough. Well, yeah, mate. First of all, that takes away the the genuine reaction that they have. I mean, and I agree, like stuff that's really off the deep end, generally I don't do. If I am going to, I do totally believe in talking before you start a campaign, talking with your group. Is someone commenting?
One thing, your musical mercenary just said, I played a game that involved forcing players to face their greatest fear. One player got so upset he just left. What do you think about that? Like, making players musical. Can you tell us more? Is it making the character face their greatest fear? Because I'm interested. If it's the, I think my answer may be a little different. If it's the human being, like if I didn't like spiders and you were forcing me to encounter spiders, I might freak out as a person. But if it's the character, that might be disassociated. I'm just curious if it was you as a human being or if it was the character. Fill us in the chat. We'll
also, if I might, did he or she leave the session, or was that the end for them? Did they leave the campaign?
Yeah, let us know if that was just like a one-time thing or if it was goodbye for the campaign. Sorry, I interrupted you, Brian. I was reading the chat.
No. I want to hear what people have to say. Again, like the really horrific stuff, probably, unless that's the campaign you're running and there's a big disclaimer at the beginning of the campaign, that's fine. Normally, I don't do that shit either. Yeah. I do talk with my group, and first of all, it's always, all inclusive. It is always, as correct as we can be. I'm not out looking to disparage anyone or anything.
Sure, yeah. So. I'm not talking about like being a dick.
No. Just the hard moral decisions. I will get a feel for how that group feels in general about that stuff, but I don't believe that somebody should be given a heads up. I'm all for talking about it beforehand or talking about it afterwards, but
yeah.
I guess
debrief is good, especially if you're going to force the character into. I had one game where there was a player who was really getting into the role play, and I put a child in the game the person was a mother in game and out of game. So I was like, okay, this is gonna force this player to make a decision, and it moved their character was very much motivated, like it changed their whole action.
Yeah,
but we talked about it afterwards. They were like, yeah, that was fine, that was really good. It really made my character think, and I'm okay with it. I know you weren't like getting me as a person to think about it. So, I think that those things can be really motivating here. Musical said that the character we were talking about earlier, The person was in character and the DM went after it, and then the person just left the session and the game fell apart shortly thereafter. That's just kind of a bummer.
You know,
what do you think about that? I know what I think. I could say a lot. What do you want to say?
I could say a lot.
Let's be nice because we're new and we need.
No. I think that it should. Again, we're talking about storytelling. You know, we've seen some of the episodes of Critical Role where it gets really intense, and I understand that many people invest themselves differently in the game and in their characters, and many people use the game as a therapeutic and cathartic means, which I think it is a very important aspect of the game. However, I kind of feel like, you know, it is a game, it is fantasy.
Jeff said, "Say it, say it." Dude,
Sack up, Sally.
Come on, man. We're not on. You know.
I feel like if if it affects you to that degree, and I think it should affect people. I think that's good. I think that makes for real, genuine storytelling.
Hell yes.
If it affects you to that degree, then I think you either need to find, obviously, a different group with a different set of expectations, or, you know, it's just not the group for you. Obviously, you have to talk to your group, but I don't think that you should warn people ahead of time this is going to be tough. I mean, you know, what you end up diluting the experience down to the point where eventually you kind of have to ask yourself, why am I playing this game? Is it because
Jeff says this isn't Kansas anymore?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it and again, if a DM and a group of players decides that that's not the way it should be,
sure,
absolutely.
Everybody's fun.
I don't think DMs should ever.
Everyone can have fun their own way.
Yeah, DMs are not. In a DM, like you said, is a facilitator of the story, a facilitator of the story. Hold on, let me have another sip of my.
That might be the only thing we need to censor. That one word. I don't know what the hell it was.
A facilitator.
A facilitator.
DM is a facilitator of the story. All right.
That's right.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is a collaborative group. It's not, you are in my campaign, I rule all. You hear that, Jeff?
That's right,
You're
Jeff.
not omnipotent. I'm just kidding.
Jeff's preparing to give you a middle finger emoji.
He is, yeah. Well, he'll give it to me in 2 weeks when we continue our long going campaign with my 15th level hexblade. I think our timeline is short, our tether. Anyway, so a DM should never force players into an uncomfortable situation if it has been agreed beforehand that they don't want that type of experience. Okay,
yeah.
But barring that, if you talk about it beforehand, then, are there going to be some difficult decisions and hard moral decisions? That's kind of what the game is about.
I got to say something here, too, because this just was... I don't do this anymore because I think I've chilled out and I think I work out more regularly and I'm not angry about as many things as I used to be. But Jeff says here, what the hell does Jeff say? I got my long-range glasses on. A DM's job is to both facilitate and to ensure all your players have some fun. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because you got to do both. You got to make sure everybody's involved, but you also got to keep things moving so it's not we're all just not sitting there going, well, what kind of sword do you want to buy? I don't know what kind of sword I want to buy. Mercenary says here, when I'm writing for a session and I'm unsure how something sensitive may be received, I'll ask vaguely if the group would be interested. It only happened once. It was nice. Yeah. So, it's okay. I think that's a great idea. Floating stuff out there to see if people are interested in it. And then, okay, so here's a stupid thing that I did. There was...
Wait, which one?
This is several. This is after Joe Manganiello blocked me, which is a whole nother story. I
still want to hear that whole story. You told me
that'll have to be a whole episode. I probably was mostly me. I can be mature about it. It was probably mostly me. So there was this one thing going around, and it was like it was like the RPG safety card or something, like the RPG safety survey. Have you seen this?
I have not, actually.
It's like a document where you fill, and it's got like, I'm just gonna say, I just think it's ridiculous. I think it's stupid. If there's all these topics, it's like, are you okay with violence? Like, if so, how much? A little bit, a lot, lots of blood, and it's like it's everything, and it's every possible topic that could come up is codified and ranked, and it's like the social element of getting to know a person that you're going to play a game with is removed, and it's just here we're going to just tick mark all these boxes, and the DM is going to just be an automaton and put this out there. So what I did is I just posted, I was like, I think this is stupid and it's bullshit, and it's just, you should, basically my point was you need to get to know people, and as a human being be decent and not put them in a situation where they're going to have a PTSD episode, but also allow people to, like you said, experience some type of emotion when storytelling. All the good movies and stories that we see are emotional. They're not things where we go, I felt safe, I felt happy. Like sometimes you can feel happy. Oh, it was a happy movie, but that's it's like you got to encounter something. And so then the person who originally posted it, like they went up and they blocked me and sent me a nasty gram, and I'm just like, I don't cry at all. I don't feel sad, but maybe you should have sent me that sheet of paper and asked me if my feelings were going to be hurt. But I just think it's like removing everything about what a role playing game is. So here, what do you think?
Yeah,
Sorry,
I agree. I agree. Again, look, I'm not advocating making anybody feel bad, and I'm not advocating that if that is the group's if the group wants a game like that, then do it. Okay, you can make the game whatever you want. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, outside of having that discussion beforehand, and I've never encountered a group that wants things to be that safe. We've always talked about, look, I want an inclusive game. I don't want anything disparaging. I don't, nothing like really sicko off the fucking walls, obviously. But again, that goes without saying. I guess I feel like if you need it to be that safe, probably D&D is not the game for you. Dare I say it? And I'm probably going to catch hell for that. But
Jeff said here, like Jeff said, like we're all too old to need a safety card, which is true, and I like Jeff already. But also, like if you're in a random group, maybe it's a little like if you're just hosting a game at a game store or at the the gaming bar. There's a gaming bar in my town. It's called D20. Awesome bar, great people. Super great people, amazing people, lots of good stuff, lots of beer and games, lots of dragons, dungeons are found there too. So, like, what do you think? Is it different if it's a random group? Is that like
absolutely
tread a little bit more lightly? Like, don't bring out the demon with the skull that's splitting open, and there's the Antichrist baby coming out.
Absolutely. Like, a home game with guys you've been playing with since high school, oh, you're uncomfortable? Go fuck yourself, basically is what it comes down to. Definitely. And you bring up an interesting point, if we've learned one thing over the past couple of years, again, with the one or two good things to come out of COVID is how this community has exploded through remote play. And I'm playing with people that I would have never even met before, let alone played this game with. So yes, absolutely, when you are playing with strangers, it does take time to get to know them. And I have two anecdotes about this. Okay, the first one is, I don't think we had these same questions when we were kids playing this game.
You mean it's different now?
Yeah. And I think that, and I'm going to sound like the old guy again, but
you are the old guy.
I'm
catching up.
I am. So I
right
guess I'm
there.
playing my part. I'm playing my part. With social media, what it is today, we have forgotten, even though we can converse, worldwide, we've forgotten how to interact face to face sometimes.
How to be a person.
And I think that is part of the whole, putting somebody outside of their element in the game or whatnot. So I agree with Jeff that, like, most of us are too old to be, to pull the safety card, basically. The other anecdote, I completely forgot what I was going to say.
because you're the old guy. Because you forgot what you were going to say.
Let me backtrack. It was.
I don't even know. What were we talking about?
God damn it.
Wow, we are old.
It was my really wise, prophetic. The internet is Satan. I forgot what else I was going to say. We were talking.
Well, the internet,
fuck it.
Well, it's just this. I don't even know if this is about gaming, but we become so. I mean, this is not unknown to anybody that's got their head out of their ass for the past 5 years. But just social media has destroyed our ability to talk to people and engage as a human being. As a teacher, I see it. Kids can't even. They don't know how to say hi.
Yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating. I'm like, hello, and they're like, I'm like, hey, you respond with, how are you? And I'm like, good to see you. Here's how you. I had to teach how to shake hands.
Yeah.
Because kids don't know how to do that. So I think what I'm seeing, and I actually wanted to get to this. I'm glad we have time here. Oh, gentleman game master, Malcolm's in the room. Nice.
Malcolm, what's up, brother?
Malcolm. We're now outclassed. we're definitely
okay, so
outclassed.
it's been good talking to you guys. We gotta go.
No. All right, we gotta go.
I'm very curious to hear Malcolm's views.
Malcolm
on this
was reminding you that you're saying the game was not the same as before. I'll let you. He was jogging your memory. The game is not the same as it used to be. If you want to pick up there with that, if you remember what you want to say, go for it. Otherwise, I'll rant and rave about something.
Thank you, Mal. Let me chew on that. You go ahead because it's still not jogging my memory.
Okay, what the hell was I saying?
Okay,
I was going off on some tangent. God, I wish I had rewind, but now I don't have. God, people are going to be like, these guys are idiots. What are these guys casting for? I remember. Okay, I remember. So there's new content coming out. Somebody in one of my D&D group chats, they texted me, there's new content coming out. I forget which book it is. There's releasing a whole bunch of them. And there's I don't even know how to describe it other than what they told me is it's a section in the rules that's going to teach players other ways besides combat to earn experience and overcome obstacles. And I'm like, well, that's fucking role playing. That's like the entire game. That's like the whole thing.
By the way, I never, and I think Jeff does the same in our campaign. Jeff, I don't know if you use milestone or XP. I think milestone. I never use XP values ever. It's dumb.
This is what I do is I actually do milestone. Never tell my players this. I actually do milestone, but I give them XP at a milestone pace. The XP I give has no correlation to the obstacle. Anything. Yeah. It's just like you get 3,000 experience and oh yes.
I don't even deal with experience. If they want experience, I would do the same thing. It's like, okay, you get this much. It has nothing to do with what they fought or any of that shit.
Yeah, it's just like congratulations. You get points.
It's
here we go. Jeff was saying social has crippled actual interpersonal in-person skills. Was that where you were going? Were you going toward?
Well, yes, that's basically where I was going with what I was talking about we've all forgotten how to interact with each other, and the game is there to kind of elicit that interaction. So if you make it so safe, again, I'm torn because I know that a lot of people use the game as truly a means of escape and therapy. Okay,
that they make themselves their own avatar. Is that what you're saying, or is it?
Yeah.
Because I see different players. There's avatar person, and then someone who's actually I'm going to play a character.
Yeah, the way I see, and I'm treading lightly here, and I don't mean to. I'm trying to be very careful not to.
I know you. You're an empathetic, kind, compassionate human being who cares about people.
Yes.
And that doesn't go out the window when you say whatever it is you need to say.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at is the game, the way I see the game being therapy is just to disengage from real life and spend some time having a good time.
Yeah.
I don't look at it as this is my mental therapy through my character. If that's the case, you probably should not be playing the game for that reason, and you should probably be seeking that, through better and other channels, and it's a fine line. And again, I don't mean to, you're
not disparaging anyone. You're just observing. I've seen it too. I have seen it too.
It is still a game. It is still a game. It is a game at its core. It is a game to tell stories and to have a good time at its base level. Sometimes, like you said, an interesting movie has some uncomfortable parts. Oh God, I can't believe they killed that character. I fucking love that character. Now I'm pissed off. You know what? You're probably still going to end up loving the movie by the end of it.
Oh yeah, it makes that connection, gives it that narrative pace, gets you invested in it.
Yeah.
Malcolm said, I so want in on this conversation the next time you have it. Nice.
Okay, right there. We just got our first guest. Malcolm, next Tuesday.
Okay, next Tuesday, right. Mal.
I'd like to get your expert opinion.
to add some quality to this back and forth.
It's fucking idiots.
These two old dudes are like, back when I was young.
Back when I was a kid, this game was...
It was fun. We rolled dice and hid in the basements, and people thought we were Satan worshippers, and we had a great time. Well, we said we were going to go about 45 minutes, man. We've only got a few minutes left.
Let's take some questions. Anybody got any?
Yeah, if you got any questions or stuff you want to hear us talk about or stuff you all want to say in the chat, let us know.
Or any...
if anybody's left. If anybody's still
left,
there.
flip us the bird.
It's
whatever.
like, God, okay, they're still talking.
Yeah.
Is there anything you got going on? Just any stuff you want to... let's plug-a-roo. Plug-a-roo. What do you got going on? And any projects you're working on? Just stuff you got going on?
I'm working on a couple of... I'm working on some stuff for the Bearded Nerd.
Oh, yeah.
A couple logo tweaks and then some overlays for him.
He's a good guy.
He is very good. We talked on the phone for like an hour, and it's like I felt like I was talking to you. We could have talked for 3 or 4 shooting the shit.
Yeah, the conversations I've had with... His name is Bryan as well, so the conversation I've had with other Bryan is great. He's just such a good guy, and he loves D&D, and he loves helping new people get into it. We should have him on too, and just
we should.
He actually has. Okay, all of you that are still here, I think he's Bearded Nerd Media. He's got either a podcast or he's got Instagram podcast. You guys should follow him and check him out. He's he always brings a lot of interesting stuff to the table.
Yeah, definitely. So I got that, and then I'm finishing up this other logo for this other group of guys that do a podcast. I think that's it. Yeah. I'm painting some minis. I haven't painted minis in freaking forever.
God, I haven't either. I have my little list. That's what I want to do. If I can paint a mini or two in the next couple of weeks, that would be really nice.
I have a guy I'm painting up for one of my players for Wednesday. It's like
Can I throw out too, by the way, some of the quality of the painters that I've seen on Instagram is just unreal.
I consider myself a pretty good miniature painter.
You're good.
I see the stuff I see some of the stuff online. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, I should sell all my brushes and paints.
I know. I can't believe how good that they are. It's like this technique has gone to a level where it's almost photoreal, like it's realistic. Yeah. One person's looked like digital art, and I was like, "There's no way that's real." And then they moved it around. I can't believe how skilled some of these people are.
I know. The one. I mean, there's so many of them, but the one that comes to mind. I don't know. Have you seen Simon Games, Marvel United?
Hold on.
Anyway, tabletop board games.
I don't think I have. Not off the top of my. I might have, but not off the top of my head.
Tabletop board games is part of my passion too. That's the and in the RPG&Co company. But anyway, they have a studio of painters that do their. It's all the Marvel characters, but it's like chibi style. So big heads and exaggerated features and stuff like that. And the studio is Big Child Creative, and they paint up all the Marvel figures for this game. And there's hundreds of them.
Nice.
They are. I literally have to look, and this is a designer speaking, I have to look at these photos to make sure that they're not illustrated art and they're actually painted minis. It's just insane.
The level of skill out there is just ridiculous. Well, man, we've only got a few minutes. I gotta go because I'm a dad. You're a dad. I'm super tired. I barely made it to 9 o'clock tonight.
That's an hour later. It's an hour later for you.
That's right. I'm on the East Coast. If you could all give Bryan's channel a follow, RPG&Co. We're trying to grow our channels together so we can host each other, because we're going to be doing some streaming independently as well, and we want to be able to tie everyone together. So if you could follow Bryan's channel, RPG&Co. that you're watching right now, and then also if you could give me a follow at on Twitch at the D&D Club. I just appreciate it because we're just trying to, we're trying to get more of an audience. And several of you have said like, hey, this is fun. That's good. This is good. If this was good, that's what we're trying to do.
Buy my product.
Yeah. Buy what I'm selling. This is just like my hangout time for the week. This is the fun stuff.
I know, right?
Like this,
Yeah.
I work all week sending emails and scheduling stuff, and this is the fun time. So
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, any suggestions on topics or whatever, throw them out during the week. Name suggestions. If nobody comes up with anything better, then by next week we're going to be our RP game talk.
RP games. RP game talk. You've
you
got
got
a week
something
to
better,
figure it out.
Throw it out there.
Jeff said perhaps next time the terrain topic and also how to work up to that from just whiteboard minis. I like that. I think that's a really good topic. I think we'll do that for sure.
All right, we'll talk about maps, dry erase, and terrain. That's a good topic.
Yes, the physical presentation.
Yeah.
And now there's so many dimensions to it because it's not just in person, it's online, and how do you build that immersive space? So
yeah.
All right.
Cool.
You want to sign off, man? You want to call it a night?
Sure. We're done.
Okay. All right. Let's do it.
Off.
Let's call it a night. Everybody have a good night. Thanks for being here and tolerating us. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Have a good night, everyone.
Ciao.